No phones in class. Kappa. Alright, everyone here?
Hi.
Hello.
Alright, guys. So, last week, we talked about winning at League of Legends, right? A couple things, things such as warding, competitive for solo queue, and how it only really affects the meta. Champion select we talked about. Early, mid, late. Reasons that you lose. So let's get into it. Win conditions. I highlighted this with a couple of you this week. So there are two types of win conditions. There are short-term win conditions and long-term win conditions. And you need to be thinking about your win conditions pretty much every minute of the game because they change at a very rapid pace. They change, and you need to be able to adapt. So some short-term win conditions. Winning lane. Very simple, snowballing and winning your lane and pushing that advantage. Not losing lane. This is one of the biggest lessons that I had to teach a lot of people. It is okay to lose your lane. It is okay to not do anything in your lane. As long as you are keeping up your CS numbers, you are warding, you are doing everything to help your team out in comparison to your opposing mid laner, things will usually work out. It is okay to be carried, unlike what most people think in solo queue. It is more than okay to try and be carried. You're not going to be able to carry every game. If you were a consistent machine, you would already be in challenger and you wouldn't need my help. So it is okay to play back. It is okay to understand when you are not doing well and doing everything you can from your position. So not losing lane, and even losing lane a little bit is okay as long as you aren't going 0-10 in lane. You can still win the game. It's all about helping your team as much as you can when you're behind. And usually this involves wards. And I know I know wards don't do damage, but sometimes you need to ward up and play as defensively as possible. Ganking and roaming. Ganking applies to the jungler. You want to get lanes going. You want to start snowballing lanes. You want to make sure that, like in the early game, that there's something to work with as you approach the mid game, as you approach the grouping and team fighting. You want to make sure you got somebody going, and sometimes that might be level 6. So you just farm all the way up and then hit level 6 and start ganking. Sometimes it doesn't even happen after level 6. Sometimes you just gotta farm it out. You just gotta make sure, as a jungler, you're making some sort of impact. Whether it be taking Scuttle Crab so the enemy jungler can't gank, whether it's warding and fighting the enemy jungler. Say you're Nunu. It is perfectly okay to not gank a lane as long as you're fooling around with the other jungler. Like if you're able to take 3 red buffs from Diana, you are looking at a short-term win condition. Your short-term win condition at this point is to screw with the enemy jungler so they can't do anything, so they're behind in XP and gold, so they can't gank lanes. And then roaming, mid laners, top laners, supports, basically everyone can roam. It's completely possible for an AD carry to roam at level 2. I seen it happen today in solo queue. It was awful. I lost my lane because of it. So basically what you're looking at here is, looking to make an impact on another lane with as little damage to your lane as possible. Sometimes you're going to take a hit. A classic example is Twisted Fate. His core item is Ionian Boots of Lucidity. Listen to me. Ionian Boots of Lucidity. That is literally his one and only core item. Everything else can be completely variated and completely depends on the situation. But the boots help you shove out waves. They help you get back mana. They help you gank other lanes. They help you gank other lanes sooner. And not to mention, you can buy home guards and just run back the lane over and over again.
Yep.
So Twisted Fate's a perfect example of a champion that roams a lot, that wants to get his team ahead at the cost of his own lane. And even if the enemy mid laner gets the turret, as long as you made an impact during the time that they got that turret, they were farming, they were pushing, as long as you got something going, it wasn't a waste, right? So that's something to think about, just roaming and getting the team ahead, because it is a team game at the end of the day, and it is okay sometimes to depend on other people to carry the game. This applies to you more as you climb rankings, right? After we get out of platinum, pretty much. Well, I don't want to say it. Like once you get out of like the bottom of platinum, pretty much, it's when it starts becoming team oriented, objective oriented. You need to maybe start looking for other people to help you win the game. It's no longer a mechanical solo queue fest. Like
it's around Platinum 3 from what I've seen.
Yeah, I completely agree. I actually think it's around Platinum 4, like the top of Platinum 4,
Yeah.
like bottom of Platinum 3. It's usually where you start seeing teams requiring to start playing together and actually working together as opposed to one person solo carrying the game, because the enemy team's going to know how to focus the one person that's able to carry the game at that point, whether it be with suppressions, with hard CC, with just constantly ganking their lane as a team. I've seen some crazy things as a top laner when I snowball on my opponent 3-0. I've had support Jannas dive me under turrets trying to trade one for one just to make sure I'm off the map for a bit so they can do something. I've seen some crazy things happen to try and like equalize gold and make sure that like one person sits down. Like this happened higher up. Now lower down, roaming helps you out a lot because it gives you more gold. Because you're able to let's say you gank a bot lane as mid and the AD carry dies. That's more farm that you get. That's more experience you get, and the enemy mid laner might not do anything about it. It might just like shove it into tower, realize you're coming back, and then or randomly run away for some reason, despite you being like half mana. Like they kept half mana without an ultimate. Like you need to be able to abuse the mentality that is in your division. Whether it be bronze, silver, or gold, and play properly with the roam. And if you play it properly, as well as you can, even if it doesn't succeed, you'd be surprised how much of an impact it has on people. Okay. Team fighting. Team fighting's very important for a lot of compositions. I'm sure we've all had that all AD or all AP composition where there's like let's take an all AD composition against Scion for example. He's going to build that Frozen Heart, Sunfire Cape, Thornmail. So you have a ticking time bomb to win on this game because it's impossible to kill the Scion after a certain point of those 3 items, and even after those 3 items, he's just gonna run at you and destroy at least 2 people on the enemy team because of how strong his passive is. So okay, here's now a time bomb that we need to defuse by winning in say less than 25 minutes before he gets these items. So obviously that involves team fighting, that involves grouping and pushing down lanes. There are so many situations where in the short term you need to look to group and fight. Fight over dragons. Secure those 3 early dragons. That way you have a ticking time bomb on the game. Even if things go awry, you have a solid objective to fight for as the game goes on. Even if your composition falls off, it's pretty hard to lose with Dragon 5. Am I right?
Yep.
Okay, so next topic, split pushing. Split pushing is a very common tactic in lower divisions where one person just sits in one lane forever, shoves down every single tower, and that's how you win the game because eventually they become completely unstoppable. We're looking at champions like Tryndamere, Nasus, Irelia, Riven. All these champions have a insane duel potential, and they're able to even 2v1 after several items. They're able to 5v1 after several items. So this is also a valid strategy for solo queue, especially junglers. Junglers in the lower divisions. Junglers in the lower divisions. Sometimes your team just won't do anything, and you'll have a sated devourer, and sometimes you just need to split push the lane. We're talking Master Yi players, Shyvana players. There's a point where you become completely undoable, and you have sated devourer, Blade of the Ruin King, and an armor item, and no one can touch you in the game. So you might as well just split push a lane, and let the rest of your team do whatever, and just get towers and get objectives by yourself. This is a completely valid strategy, and you know what? It still works all the way up to Diamond. There wouldn't be one Pony, Tryndamere, and Irelia mains if in Challenger if this strategy didn't the strategy didn't work. It's completely fine to look to split push in the short term to win the game off of it. Any questions about short term win conditions? All right, awesome. Long term win conditions. So when we look at a long term win condition, we have to see how we are going to ultimately win the game, right? So the biggest one is obviously the Nexus exploding. The Nexus can explode in several ways. You attacking it, super minions flooding into it, or the enemy team surrendering. All these things have one thing in common: getting the turrets. So if you're not getting turrets, you're not contributing to the the long-term global win condition. This is very important. So if you see an opportunity to take a tower, you should obviously attempt to take it. In lower divisions, usually take the tower whenever you want. People don't know how to freeze, don't know how to punish improperly taking towers, improperly rotating. If you take a tower in these divisions, usually it can't possibly hurt you. There are like very rare occasions where you're like against like say very defensive like five man like Janna, Orianna, Lulu teams where it's going to be very hard to siege against them, and then like taking the inner turret becomes really big hassle. But in those situations, they aren't going to be playing those champions to a very strong degree. Like this isn't the LCS, this is gold solo queue. You're going to be able to catch them making a mistake and abuse it off that. Always take the turret if you can from bronze to gold. Platinum and higher, it becomes a little bit more tricky. Sometimes taking turrets will cause the enemy team to be able to snowball because you can't really overextend. In which case, you need to look to move to other lanes. That way, you can take more turrets. I know I was talking about split pushing earlier, but there are going to be times where you as a mid laner take your turret first, and then you sit there farming for the next 25 minutes. Did you really accomplish anything after taking that turret? Why? You have to ask yourself, why didn't I take this? Take any advantage off getting this turret? What happened in this game? Oh, okay, the other two lanes are behind. Maybe I should have made another play somewhere else. Maybe I should have looked to roam bottom several times and just constantly show there. Despite like the XP and the items that my AD carry is going to be behind, there's only one way to win this game, and it's to get the global gold for them. Sometimes taking turrets is completely wrong because people are going to take objectives over it. Like obviously you shouldn't be trying to take the inhibitor turret when the third bottom turret when the enemy team has Baron pressure. People are going to punish you in higher divisions. You need to be aware of what's going on the map at all times. It really just comes down to map awareness and understanding what you're capable of without losing everything in higher divisions. So that gets into globals. Baron, Dragon 5. These objectives can be very difficult to take, especially, and they are always heavily contested. Poor dragon timings are one of the biggest reasons teams lose in the early game. Not understanding if it's warded, still forcing it if it's warded. I've seen so many dragons that are just completely forced out of absolutely nothing. Oh wow, the enemy the enemy jungler is really low. Maybe we can force dragon, and then the Rek'Sai recalls and then shows up in the Baron pit, in the dragon pit, because no one decided to clear out the tunnel. You decided to focus down dragon, and you lose the dragon because of it. You need to be aware of what the enemy team is capable of when you're trying to take these objectives. Baron, dragon, even buffs. I've seen so many silly lanes thrown, like so many lanes thrown because of something as stupid as the top laner going for a buff because they think they have pressure on the top lane, and they think they can duel the jungler. Hey, surprise! The mid laner showed up. The mid laner showed up and you died for absolutely no reason. Oh wow, you lost 3 waves to your turret. Big deal. That's a really big deal. You just lost the lane probably. Ben, which dragons do you think aren't worth taking a turret for? I think Dragon 4 and Dragon 5 are not worth taking turrets for. I think Dragon 4 is one of the most important dragons, simply because of the amount of pressure it exudes on the game, right? So you have like once that's taken, you have a 6 minute you have a 6 minute period where either you need to push something down and make your presence known as a team, or you have to fight for the fifth dragon. In which case, it becomes really dicey, and like you can't afford the coin flip. If you lose that coin flip, you may very well lose the game. Um, Third dragon is not as important as people make it out to be. Like obviously, like when you're behind, every dragon is just like, oh no, they're going to get it. But I promise you, first, second, and third dragon in terms for solo queue, it really isn't that important. Yes, like the buffs are nice, movement speed, tower damage, all that stuff is very nice. But at the end of the day, the only dragons that really matter in exchange for turrets are dragons 4 and dragons 5. They really do impact the obviously Dragon 5 impacts the game on a completely different level than all the other dragons do. But Dragon 4 creates another mini game in which case in the area where you don't want to be as a team, because if you screw up before Dragon 5, if you if someone dies before Dragon 5, you suddenly find yourself in a very, very hostile and awful situation where if anyone else screws up, you probably just lost the game. And I'm not saying it's gonna happen every time, but you know, sometimes there's a game today, Jin Air versus KT. KT got the fifth dragon. No, it was excuse me, it was EDG versus IG. I'm thinking KT because Cacao was a long time KT roster jungler. But anyways, my point is EDG versus IG. Cacao, the jungler for Invictus Gaming, proceeded to get the fifth dragon, and it ended up not mattering because his entire team died to a gangplank barrel. It was, if you haven't seen it yet, I recommend go watching the replay. It was quite possibly the most hilarious things I've seen in competitive play for a very long time. Excuse me. So I'm not saying it's going to happen every time, but Dragon 4 and Dragon 5 are very important. It's not it's usually not worth taking turret for it unless you're able to get the inhibitor as well, and you're able to make something of that inhibitor. If it's a really close game and you get a top turret for Dragon 4 and you find yourself not being able to crack that inhibitor, you're in a losing situation, right? You can't afford to trade that inhibitor. You know, you can't afford to backdoor that inhibitor in exchange for Dragon 5 at that point. I've seen you know, this whole trading turrets for dragons thing really only becomes relevant in higher divisions, where you start to see where, you know, people are willing to fight for objectives and actually like push the button and say, okay, I'm all in for this. All right, it's fine if we lose a couple of people for this. At least we got it. You know. Ooh, excuse me. Holy crap! I need to edit that out. My apologies. I am on a new headset with my microphone, and sometimes I will swing my hands back and forth and knock it over by accident. So sorry if you heard that little explosion. Anyway.
It's okay. It wasn't loud.
Anyways, so long-term win conditions. Any questions about them? Because this is a very confusing subject for a lot of people, especially in the lower divisions. So if you have any questions about them and don't understand them, please speak up now so I can explain my thought process when I talk about long-term win conditions. I'm going to keep bringing them up in every lesson. So if you don't understand it now, please speak up in anything at all, because as I said, it's going to be a recurring theme. It's one of my main themes that I teach all my students through extended lessons. That win conditions and understanding what they are very important. Okay, when is it a good time to roam? So key points to knowing when to roam is the wave pushed up. Are you going to be punished? How much farm are you going to lose in exchange for this roam? Is it a wave? Is it 2 waves? If it's any more than, I'd say, a wave and a half, you probably don't want to be roaming around and losing all that farm, because if that roam fails, you're suddenly down a good amount of experience and gold, right? That's assuming, your opponent mid laner actually farms it all, but alas, that's assuming in a perfect world, when it's going to be worth it. However, there are going to be times where it's okay to miss like a wave and a half or 2 waves, because if I had a perfect example today where I teleported from Fountain when the enemy top laner was pushing in 3 waves of farm. I saw the jungler gank bottom, and it was an enemy Vi. Blew her ultimate. The enemy Janna and Tristana blew their ultimates as well, trying to disposition the enemy my ally bot lane of Tristana and Braum, and I proceeded to teleport to a ward right next to the fight, and I proceeded to get a triple kill. I proceeded to take dragon and turret for that. That's perfectly okay. I was very confident in my teleport, and it ended up paying off. Could it have not paid off there? Absolutely, but sometimes you have to gamble. There aren't key guide. There isn't a checklist, unfortunately, for when you should roam. It is a tool of game sense and playing the game and understanding what the capabilities of your champion are and how you can apply them to a specific situation. If you want to learn how to roam, you should look at champions like Twisted Fate and Annie. They will teach you very, very much about how to roam and how to snowball advantages in other lanes. Another great example of roamers are Pantheon, and I would say Riven. Okay, so Joe, that's pretty loaded. Against someone who aggressively freezes lanes, sometimes what you need to do against those people is call your jungler over and get them to shove the wave into the turret. If they are freezing lane, that means you are improperly playing the lane in most situations. There's something that you are doing that allows your enemy laner to freeze the lane against you. A classic example of someone aggressively freezing the lane against them was a wonderful game that I unfortunately do not have the VOD of. It was a Twisted Fate versus a Fizz. The Twisted Fate player came up to me and said, I don't understand what I did wrong this game in the laning phase. The Fizz just kept freezing on me, and eventually just killed me. And I proceeded to look at what he did at level 1, and he didn't understand what he needed to do at level 1. He needed to shove out the wave as fast as possible with red cards. That way at level the second wave hits the turret for him, and that way it's going to keep pushing back, and that way Twisted Fate can control the lane with his AoE and in range. And what ended up happening was Twisted Fate proceeded to throw 2 blue cards at the first 2 melee minions and lost complete control of the lane because it got frozen on, and it happened over and over and over because he didn't understand that blue cards are not what you want to be doing in that lane. Red cards are the ones you want to be throwing, and maybe a blue card here and there. And once you have enough damage with your Q, but this is what happened. This was just improperly playing the lane. Another example is Riven versus Aurelia. I've seen so many Rivens attempt to fight Aurelia in her minion wave, at level 2, and then all of a sudden Riven is sitting right outside Aurelia's tower with half HP. Aurelia still has 5 potions to Riven's 0, and she doesn't know what to do in this situation. You can't call your jungler up immediately at level 2 and be like, hey, I screwed up, come show my wave. No, you screwed up. You have to understand what to do in this situation, which is most likely back, buy some potions and a longsword, teleport back to lane, and try and fight again to get the minion wave shoved out, because Aurelia has poor wave clear. If you're able to get into the turret, you're going to be able to reset the lane. So I wouldn't say people roaming against someone who aggressively freezes a lane is necessarily correct. It's 90% of the time you played the lane improperly and allowed the opponent to do that. Does that make sense? All right, awesome. So short-term win conditions: win lane. Everyone wants to win their lane. Everyone wants to snowball and carry the game. Not lose lane. Sometimes your competition requires you not to lose lane. Sometimes someone's snowballing on the other side of the map, and you just need to not lose your lane and feed the enemy laners. Sometimes there's a disconnect, and all you need to do is not lose and wait to group, and then you'll be able to win the game. Ganking and roaming. Roaming is a skill that is learned from playing the game and understanding the limits of your champion and how to apply them to situations. It requires a lot of finesse and effort, and if you see the opportunity, you should take it. If you're going to lose a lot, well, that's on you to decide if it's worth it for you to lose it or not. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. Ganking junglers. Sometimes you just need to farm till 6 and then gank, or sometimes you need to make your pressure known early. Lessson is a great example. Elise is a great example of early pressure junglers. Evelyn, another early game pressure jungler. All about understanding your win condition there. Team fighting. Sometimes your team composition has a ticking time bomb on it. You need to group and fight before that bomb goes off. Or maybe the enemy team has a bunch of scalers that you need to beat before 45 minutes. 45 minutes. 35 minutes. Sometimes you need to beat a Vayne before she has 3 items. Sometimes you need to beat an Asus before he has 500 stacks, etc. And split pushing is a tactic used by usually top or mid laners to make yourself incredibly strong, and so you can fight whoever. Long-term win conditions: surrenders, attacking nexuses, using super minions to blow up the nexus. Those are usually long-term win conditions. Globals as well. Baron and Dragon, and understanding how to fight for dragons, when to fight for dragons, very important as you climb up the ladder. All right, any questions about win conditions? Okay, sweet. Moving on. Okay, so we're gonna start talking about winning as lanes. I'm gonna start with the most complicated lane and the lane nearly everybody tries to avoid. Top lane. Top lane is the lane that most players are adverse to because they don't understand what goes on in this lane. It honestly changes depending on the patch. And it used to be tanks, it used to be bruisers, it used to be mages, it used to be carries. Lane swapping. It used to be God knows what. You could honestly play anything top nowadays. To be completely honest, you could play any mage, any you could play Vayne top. There are so many things that you can play top nowadays. So people are just very scared of the lane in general because of how it's positioned. Right? Let's look at Rift Kit. Let's look at Rift Kit. Alright, so I had the honor of playing TF into a rally at top last night. I died. Hey, you are going to die a lot. Anyways, so
I only died 3 times. It wasn't that bad.
That's pretty bad for Night Rally lane. And then everyone else gets to deal with that rally lane. Whew! Fun times. So, let's take a look here, right? We got all this space over here, right? So let's take a look from blue side. So this is your top lane is blue side. So what do I have to worry about as a top laner from blue side? Well, I have to worry about ganks from here, 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 here. I have to worry about all these places. I have to worry ganks from here, especially. Oh man, all the ganks that I've lost to here. So there are 5 places that you have to worry about ganks coming from by yourself. Bot lane over here has 2 people. They have 2 people. They have 2 people that can ward. You are all by your lonesome. And sometimes Mr. Jungler over here is like, nah, I don't want to touch this lane ever. And then the enemy jungler's like, I'm here. I'm gonna screw with you day and night. Oh, hey, you're low? Under here? Cool, let's kill you. Let's send you back to Nexus. You know, these games happen all the time, and it's why people get so afraid to play top lane, because, you know, as soon as you die here, let's say there are like 18 minions over here, you lost 3 waves of experience, you're out of the lane entirely, and then the jungler comes back. You know, you run all the way back up again, right? You run all the way back up here again. And you're like, okay, I can farm this wave here now. And the jungler and top lane are like, nope, we're gonna kill you again. And then all of a sudden, you're dead, and you get sent back to the Nexus again. And you're like, jungler, help! And then, you know, the jungler's over here farming like Prompt over here. And you're like, you're useless! Anyways, the personal rants aside about junglers and top lane. So, the biggest thing about top lane is, you know, the snowball potential, right? Once the enemy top laner gets ahead, it's very hard for you to do anything 1v1. It's very hard for you to do anything 2v1, because if the enemy jungler shows up, let me clear this out here and explain. Alright. So if the enemy jungler shows up here, is sitting out here, after you know, you die, and the top laner's right here, and you're like spam pinging this, you're like help, and the jungler finally listens to you and it's like, okay, I'm gonna gank now. And then you try and kill this guy, and then the enemy jungler shows up when you're behind. You two get destroyed. You two get sent back. So, you know, once the snowballing starts, top lane, it's very hard to control it unless you can get like some pretty prime information. Like, so let's say you get ganked here, and then there's like a ward over here, because, you know, bot lane was smart enough, the support was smart enough to run up and ward these areas because she saw the jungler top, and, you know, hey, he's here, and then the jungler runs up, and there you go, you're back in the lane, right? You know, they're very delicate. It's a very delicate lane, and you know, it requires a lot of planning and understanding of what happens, and that's why so many people are adverse to it. If you're not playing top lane all the time, you don't know what to expect. You don't know what to do. So, all right, let's talk about how to win in top lane. You make the opponent cry. You snowball on top of them over and over and over, and they eventually rage quit and go, oh my god, this team, 9x report, you know? It is the completely valid strategy to sit here in lane, and just snowball on the enemy laner and just keep sending them back to the Nexus over and over again. This doesn't necessarily require killing them, right? Because you can once, after like a first blood maybe, you can just sit there in lane and freeze it on them because you have a nice like XP and gold advantage. It's completely possible to just like reset. It's completely possible to say after like a first blood. Let me just reset the entire thing. After a first blood, you can just sit with your minion wave like right here. You can sit with your minion wave right here, and the enemy top laner can't really do anything about it, right? I've seen so many games where the top laner just sits here, and the allies are like, oh, I want farm, and you're just like, nope, go back to the Nexus. I chunked you 25%, and if you stay again, you're dead. You know? Another valid example of, you know, making your opposing laner cry is just shoving them in. Vladimir is a very good example of this, where the Vladimir is just constantly farming, and, you know, your poor old Shen, and you screwed up your level 2, and you just, like, you can't fight him anymore because you don't have any items, and Vladimir already has his Will of the Ancients, and you're just constantly sitting here, and then you're sitting here, and then you're sitting here. Whoa. Whoops. Alright. That's what happened. You're sitting here, and then all of a sudden, your Nexus, your inhibitor's down, and your entire team's like, what the hell? Report top. It happens all the time. I can't count how many games I've seen it. So, you know, sometimes you just want to humiliate your opponent. There are many ways of doing it. And as I mentioned before, you want the jungler to come in. You know, ganks in top lane are very helpful, especially the first one. There are some very snowballing matchups. My favorite one is Irelia versus Riven. The first person to get a gank in that matchup wins the matchup. The first person to get a lead in that matchup wins the matchup. Another example is Vladimir versus anyone. If you're able to gank the Vladimir early because he overextends, then you are able to allow your top laner to fight Vladimir from that point. So jungler intervention is always appreciated, but don't count on it. Do not count on it because after the second buff, so we're looking at about 8 minutes here, 7 minutes here. If your jungler shows up top, the dragon can be lost bot lane, or even worse, your bot lane can be dove because they know there's no fear of a counter gank. So, don't always expect your jungler to be able to help you. Don't expect your jungler to help you at all. Be a strong, independent top laner that doesn't need a jungler. And I know that's really difficult to do, but sometimes it needs to be done. Another example is roaming, teleport plays. So, I mentioned it earlier. Let me see if I can actually bring it up. I have my replay.gg. Let's take a look at this. Oh, that's not it. No one needs to see that. All right. Let's take a look at this. I do apologize. I originally had about 5 or 6 replays ready for you guys, but then the patch happened yesterday, 2 days ago, and I was screwed. Let's take a look at this. Let me show you some really nice teleport plays. Let me see if I can find it real quick. 3. Page machine. This is 2-1. Alright, here it is. Alright, so the actual teleport's in here. I'm like, oh, okay, that's well. This isn't the one. Alright, so see, the carry dies here, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna come in here and clean this up. This is the play, by the way.
We can't see it.
Can't see it? Oh, goodness.
Yep.
Can we... Let's see.
You have to change your game to borderless, I think.
That's right. Right. Alright. How's that, guys? Yep. Okay, we're good now. Oh my god.
Yep.
So, you see what happened here? I make the teleport. He makes the teleport play, makes it happen, and then I make the teleport play back, and...
Lag. Oh, there we go.
So what we see here is 2 issues.
What was Azir thinking?
So what we see here is me completely turning the game around. Me completely snowballing the game in our favor here, thanks to my teleport. Alright, teleport's in here. I teleport right back. I'm much stronger than Yasuo at this point. I got his red buff. Yep. I'm now 8-1. And you're not taking it again. And we've successfully won the game at this point, thanks to the teleport play. So, teleporting in when you know the enemy top laner has teleport when you're behind is a very, very risky situation. Are they going to use it? Do they have an opportunity to use it? I had a perfect opportunity to use that. I was right over here. I didn't have anything to do top lane. Top lane's pushed in. Obviously, I'm going to teleport in if Yasuo teleports in. These are things you want to think about when using your teleport. You want to use it as effectively as possible. You don't want to just teleport in randomly. Let me show you a random teleport that I did earlier in this game. Let me see if I can find it. I believe it was like... It was a very random teleport. I was not very proud of it. Yeah, here it is. This is a very random teleport. I think I can do something here. Right, here it comes. Instead, I get nothing for this. This wave is pushing over here.
It baits your team.
Yeah. I do nothing with it. I had not perfected teleport. I gladly admit it. I pretty much like, oh yeah, I'm coming in. I can totally get this. Jenna holds me away. Jasana kills Ash, and you know it becomes a 1-for-1. And I wasted my teleport. I'm going to lose to about a wave and a half of farm here. No, within the same game, I have a game-winning teleport, and I have a very, very awful teleport. It's all about understanding what you can do in every situation. All right. Any questions about teleports? Anything? Questions about jungling and enemy humiliation? Because the last one is very important.
The most important one.
Yeah, the most important one. Farming.
Yeah.
Winning top lane is all about being relevant. I can't reiterate this enough. It's all about being relevant. So the best way to be relevant is knowing how to farm. It is okay to not get kills in top lane as long as you are farming. And, you know, you don't want to fall behind in farm. And you don't want to fall behind in farm. That's why everyone takes teleport. That way, if you lose the lane, if you lose the lane, if you die at level 1 or 2, you can teleport back to lane and salvage what should be a complete and total humiliating deficit. This is why I recommend that I recommend people play safe top laners. Tanks like Maokai are very safe and farm and do a very good job protecting carries mid to late game. This is if you are uncomfortable with top lane, don't go for the ballsy plays. Don't go for the ballsy plays. Don't go for the flashy plays. Don't go for the perfect teleports. If you don't know what you're doing in top lane, just farm. Use your teleport to farm. If you see the enemy top laner using their teleport to make a play, shove in the lane. Try and create a CS lead from it. Hopefully they screw up their teleport, like I showed you earlier. That was a very early teleport, and potentially could have hurt me a lot if I didn't snowball otherwise. So if you don't know what you're doing in top lane, and I know that goes for a lot of you. You know, everyone fears the lane a lot and doesn't understand the lane a lot. You just need to farm. This is the best way to win top lane. I can't reiterate this enough. If you don't know what you're doing, farm. If you do know what you're doing, still consider farming. Farming the power spikes. Vladimir, Will the Ancient. Riven, Hydra. Scion, Frozen Heart. Irelia, Trinity Force. Who else? Let's see. Garen, Deadman's Plate. Darius, Deadman's Plate or Black Cleaver. All very important. Very important.
Vladimir and Gnar level 9.
Oh yeah. Frozen Mallet Gnar. That's a good one. A good one for solo queue is Frozen Mallet Gnar. That's a very good power spike. And when you should start trying to make the plays and start trying to do things. So, any questions about top lane? I'm sorry I'm moving fast today, folks, but I still have a lot of ground to cover. I still have 4 more roles to talk about, and I have a couple of class-ending facts. All right, no questions? All right, let's keep moving. Winning as the jungler. Being the jungler sucks. I can't reiterate this enough. Being the jungler sucks. Everyone wants ganks. You just want to farm. You actually want to do things in the game. You want items. Blah blah blah. You know, mid laners are taking your wraith camps. You know, not that I taught that or anything. Bottom's taking your golems at level 1. You're forced to double jungle with the top laner that ends up stealing your red buff. Everything goes wrong in the jungle, and junglers are generally given the shit end of the stick. Bottom line. So, how do we win as a jungler? Well, the most important thing as a jungler is to be efficient. If you're a ganking jungler, make sure your ganks are on point and make an impact on the lane. Blowing flashes makes an impact on the lane. Killing them obviously makes an impact on the lane. Forcing them back and shoving waves into turret makes an impact on the lane. Making them miss XP and gold. All very important things that you have to understand as a jungler. You are the emergency. You are basically the emergency summoner spell of all your laners, right? There's that constant joke that I remember seeing this image on Reddit the other day. It was Bjergsen's in Champion Select. Bjergsen from TSM is in Champion Select, and he's choosing his summoner spells. And one of them is Call Pet, and it's just a nice picture of Santorin. So the entire joke here is that Santorin is Bjergsen's third summoner spell. So you as a jungler are the emergency summoner spell for all your lanes to help them if a lane gets frozen, to reset it and shove it into the turret. That way the mid laner has a chance. At the cost of sharing XP and gold with you, it's completely worth it. That's something you have to think about as a laner. If can I make something happen here when he's being frozen? Can I even kill them? Is that possible? Okay. If it's not possible to kill them because my mid laner's so low, let's just try and shove in the wave, and hopefully it'll either push back or reset, and that way my laner can farm again. Another one is farming. Farming on Devour junglers is very important. Understanding how to farm on them is very important. I know, I've chosen Mastery. I've chosen Warwick's and Shyvana for you, for some of you, and those champions require just farming and farming and farming and farming. Just like getting that level 6. Getting your Devour stacks, getting your Dragons. Dragons on a Devourer is very, 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 very important. Because it gives 5 stacks. Scuttle Crabs give Vision and 2 stacks each. And this is in comparison to, say, ganking a lane and getting 1 or 2 stacks from said lane. So, as a Devourer jungler, you have to understand how to be as efficient as humanly possible. That requires, understanding when all your camps up. This includes all your small camps. You have to understand when they spawn. I believe it's, I don't remember the exact time off the top of my head. I believe it's a minute and a half. Let me look that up real quick. I should have that noted down here. Slops to me. Alright, where are you? Goodness. I can't find it. I believe it is a minute and a half. Don't quote me on that though. I'm like pretty sure it might be like a little over, a little under that, but I remember being like planning around like 1:30 when I was like going over jungle camps. There we go. Yep, 1:40. Awesome. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it. So let me just note that down here. small camps 140, large buff camps are 5 minutes. And Dragon is 6, Baron is 7. Yep. Keeping track of these camps as a Devourer jungler is very important. You don't want to randomly be standing around your Krugs waiting for them to spawn because you were so used to clearing your jungle and recalling and then coming back. You cleared it a bit faster than you did last time you bought. So obviously it's going to take longer for it to appear. Don't waste time waiting around for camps. Try and do something during those camps, like warding. God forbid. Clearing up vision. Another thing you could be doing while you're waiting for your camps to come up. Or even ganking as a Devourer jungler. I know, completely unheard of. Warwick doesn't have a strong level 6. Neither does Shyvana. Master Yi, ganking at level 6, forget about it, right? This is something you need to keep in mind when you're trying to be efficient as a Devourer jungler. This also goes for level 6 junglers too. You want to make as much of an impact as possible with your level 6. Champions like Vi and Diana come to mind. Diana becomes very strong after level 6, and obviously ganking pre-6 becomes really, really messy and pretty much a hassle. So Diana usually just looks to farm till 6 and maybe counter gank if she possibly can. But you don't want to force a gank with Diana. What's she gonna do? Moonfall you? That's not doing anything until level 6. So on ultimate dependent junglers, you want to make sure your farming is as efficient as possible. And I will, if anyone has any questions about this, I will gladly go over it with them through lessons this week. So you can have a better feeling and understanding for what you need to be doing as a jungler that needs to farm. What do you do if every one of your lanes is pushed to towers so they're all gankable? You have level 6, but you're a little underleveled / behind on farm. Well, that depends on what lanes have the strongest CC, right? So if I know I have an Annie in mid lane versus an Ahri, and I'm Vi with level 6, I'm going to gank the Ahri because that's two stuns that we can get. That's two hard CCs we can get her and blow her up. That's the goal there. I'm not going to be ganking for an Nasus against a Gangplank, because even if I ult Q, and then Nasus withers them, Gangplank eats an orange and walks away from the situation. The best example I can give you about being behind at level 6 in comparison to the lanes is ganking for an Ashe. Ganking for an Ashe is the easiest thing in the world because she throws out her arrow from a distance, she's stunned, everything's perfect, and you're all set up. Ashe Sona, Ashe Braum, Ashe Soraka, the silence makes it impossible for them to jump away. Ashe Callista, Ashe Callista, excuse me. Callista is another good example of a champion that has an ultimate that allows you to set up things. Ashe Callista, what is wrong? Okay, what am I saying? Ashe Callista is actually a thing in solo queue because you have people that don't want to support Ashe. But my point stands that you need to, when you see something like that, you need to look at what lane will give you the highest return for your ultimate, right? So so any high CC lane is the one you want to gank. Any low CC lane versus someone who can sustain through the CC. It's why Aurelia is so annoying to gank and tower dive because you try and CC her, it lasts for half a second, and then she stuns you under turret for 2 seconds, and then suddenly you dodge the turret and facepalm. Okay, that's a good point, Joe. But as a counterpoint, sometimes if you have a point and click, if you have a point and click plus a skill shot, it can be okay to go for that in every situation. To say that Sometimes it's going to be like 2 skill shots versus if you're like you can if you're able to outplay the people with the skill shot, like it's like okay to go for that situation. Like I'm not saying like it's not like how do I describe this? Like you shouldn't just say like okay, LeBlanc has W and R, you shouldn't gank her anymore. There are ways of baiting out the mobility that make the skill shots like viable, and so you should at least give it an attempt because you never know if you can do things and you can force outplays. It's very it's very poor thinking when you are like, well, Arya's ult, I can't gank her. Let's not try. You know, maybe you can like blow her ult if you just show up in lane and get like a Q on her. Okay, she's at an ult now. You can run back. Okay, let's blow flash this time. All right, awesome. Maybe we can actually kill her now. And you know, even little things like that, as long as you understand how to snowball them and how to like actually abuse your opponent's mentality, like even just like showing up in a lane, like hitting like hitting a skill shot that forces them to burn their ultimate is really tilting and really really annoying. So they might, and you know, sometimes they'll still play as if they still have their ultimate up because you know they're so angry that they're being camped that they really want to win their lane now. All of a sudden, that's gold on a silver platter for you. This happens all the time in bronze to gold. You know, don't be afraid to gank a lane if you think you can make something happen. And as long as you're willing to work with the people after something happens. So if you burn a flash, come back and try and get the gank off again. If you burn an ultimate, you know, try and make something happen. Try to make something happen, like clearing out vision. You know, they have no threat of like trying to fight you anymore. The 2v2 is really hard to win at that point. You know, to say that you skill sets versus high mobility isn't favorable is a very binary way of looking at it. You know, there are opportunities for outplays. You need to recognize them. Don't always say Arya's ult, I can't really gank her. LeBlanc has W, it's going to be really hard to kill her. Zed has W, it's going to be really hard to kill him. You know, sometimes you're going to be able to bait out the mobility and suddenly you have a free kill right there. Alright, so as I was talking about with Devourer and farming, lower divisions, this is how you want to play the game for quite a long time. From bronze to gold, I'd say like maybe platinum 5, you want to just farm up and, you know, don't play the mind games that you think you need to be playing. The mind games just simply don't exist. If you get invaded, it's usually very very clear that someone's coming to assist them. If things go awry, you should be very aware of what's going on in these situations. If anything, you know, you should maybe ward against potential invades. My typical wards as a jungler are, let's see, outer red brush. Let me show you. Forget. So my wards, so let's say I'm the jungler here for blue side. My usual wards to stop invades are here, when I'm taking red, here when I'm taking blue, and that's it. You know, same thing for, oh, well, not the same thing for red side. My first ward usually goes out here. That's usually the path they take most of the time, you know. Jungler goes, like, I'm not even kidding, they usually don't even bother walking up here because they view it as unsafe because the bot lane can rotate faster. So if you get the jump on them, so like you have like, so like, the reason is that because they see you immediately over here, as to opposed to if you walk all the way from over here, you know, they see you like right over here. And you know, that's much less distance to clear, so that's why most people want to take this route over here. this route over here, as opposed to this route this way. So my ward would go over here, and then my ward would go over here. So this ward doesn't change if you're trying to defect against invades. This ward changes slightly if you're trying to defect invades. Very important to have those when you're a weak early game jungler. We're talking Amumu. We're talking Nidalee, Evelynn, against a champion like Lessson. Very simple. All right. So there are very few mind games in lower divisions. Don't worry about them for the most part. Don't try and play them for the most part until you have a higher understanding of the game and you think you're just better than your opponent, or they have like some really gimmicky jungler like Jungle Zyra, something stupid like that. Jungle Malzahar is a good example of that shows up from time to time. Another thing is you should be warding for lane to show presence. So let's take a look at the map again. You can't be everywhere on the map at once, unfortunately. You are one champion. You are this guy. This guy over here. You are this jungler. So how do we make presence known? As one person. So so you proceed to ward the enemy jungle. If we throw the pink here, and the jungler shows up, and you're down here, you can spam ping this area. Top laner will know, okay, maybe I should play back. Or maybe I can ward here, and I'll know if he's coming. And the mid laner can be like, oh man, I can ward over here and know he's coming. Right? Or I guess like this is better, but my point being is, if you get vision in areas where you can see the enemy jungler and and know where he is, suddenly he becomes a lot less effective as a ganker, and that's how you can make your presence known on the map. Even like warding as an aggressor, very important. If you ward here and you see him taking his camp here, you can run right up. You can run up, smite it, and walk away. Completely possible. Just to be annoying and to be a pain. So warding is very important. It shows presence for your lanes, and it shows presence for the enemy jungler as well. So let's get into ganking. Snowballing natural advantages. Sometimes not everyone can always have a winning lane. Sometimes you get counterpicked, and if you think that the counterpick is going to drastically decrease your chance of winning, maybe you want to sit in that lane and help the person that's counterpicked win the lane. There are plenty of matchups where you would just want to camp the enemy mid laner because you think it's a bad matchup. Annie's a great example. If you camp Annie for your mid laner, she's very immobile, but she does a lot of damage. So if you're able to reduce her gold income and stop her from doing as much damage, your mid laner can roll over Annie because of how mobile she is. And I can think of like matchups like Ahri, Fizz, Twisted Fate. These are all relatively weak picks against Annie. But if you manage to get that lane going against her, she's not going to be able to do much. Another thing is impeding scaling counters. So sometimes a matchup will get worse for someone as the lane goes on. Irelia level 9 is a great example. Let's see here. Level 6 Ash Braum. Level 6 Ash Soraka. These lanes become worse as the game goes on if you don't get them shut down early. Soraka's a great example. Soraka's a great example of a champion that you want to get down. as early as humanly possible. Sometimes your support and AD carry don't know what to do against Soraka, and they just let her sit around until level 6, and then all of a sudden, there's no way the bot lane can win. So maybe you just want to gank that lane early. Completely possible. Globals. I keep mentioning Twisted Fate. Shen comes to mind. Karthus comes to mind. Pantheon comes to mind. These champions, you want to make sure they're shut down. That way, that you don't have to worry about their teleporting or ultimate presence. Alright, so any questions about winning as the jungler? Alright, moving on. Winning as mid lane. This goes for a lot of you people. The mid lane is a premier carry role. It's the one. It's where people get to make the most plays, make the most action. You get to play. You can play anything mid. Honestly, we've evolved to the point where we're playing Gangplank mid. Usually, if you want to see a strong pick, it's usually in the mid lane. So, mid lanes usually eat a lot of focus too. They should be working with the junglers to achieve map pressure. Roaming is very impactful on mid lanes. Sometimes you just want to run around the map and make every other lane cry. Sometimes you just want to farm it out and just be a control mage. Orianna comes to mind. Lulu comes to mind as a champion that just wants to farm up and become relevant throughout the entire game. There are many ways to achieve victory in mid lane, but the biggest thing you need to understand if you wish to main mid lane is you require the most vision and the most awareness of the game. Let's take a look at this, huh? Alright, so let's look at all the places the jungler can gank. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You have 8 places to gank from. And anyone can gank you. Top, support, jungler, sometimes all at once. And then you're just like, oh, I'm dead again. Oh, I'm dead again. Oh, the Thresh is back. Oh, the Thresh is listening in my lane. This is awful. Why didn't I ward? So, you can't ward everywhere. It's all about using your wards. It's all about using your wards as effectively as possible. Let's move everyone away. You can go back to your lanes. So let's say the jungler ganks from here. Thankfully, we had a ward here. Oh, but wait. Jungler cleared it out. Darn. What do we do in this situation? Probably we want to play to this side. Because this is probably where the jungler is. And this is why having multiple wards out. This is why having multiple wards pays off. Because if you see him clear the ward out here, maybe you can throw a ward here, play to this side, and suddenly it becomes a lot easier for you to do things. If the jungler comes from, say, over here, you can't really do much. Because you just walk all the way over there. Right? You just walk all the way over here. And you'll be like, oh, jungler, help. And you'll be like, okay, I'm here. Shut up. Alright, go ahead. If my mid is being ganked, as a support, should I come help? Well, that depends on the situation. Are you being played up on? Let's make an imaginary scenario here. So this is happening, right? And your jungler's over here farming Krugs because it's Shyvana and you hate and she just wants to make everyone hate life. And you have a Lessson and you have a Lessson and a Diana versus say an Annie. They're coming here. It depends where your lane is. Are they pushed up? Are they pushing up on you? Is it even over here? Are they over here? Is your AD carry able to get out safely? There are plenty of situations where this roaming up like this is more than fine. But there are plenty of situations where it's not good. Say you're over here. And then this happens. Over here. You can't run through here to help him, right? Nope. You can't run through here to help him. You're gonna leave your carry alone. What if the tower's really low? He's just going to get dived. So there are plenty of situations where you just need to look at what's going on in your lane and deciding, well, can I make the play or not? And usually, I don't want to say usually it's all about reading the situation. And if you need help with that, I'm more than willing to help you out. Alright, so, vision, ganking, very important. So, how do we win? The most important power in the game is this turret right here. Can anyone answer why? Anyone speak up at all? Alright, Ron. Open up.
It has the most dragon pressure.
It's not about just dragon pressure.
You can go fucking anywhere, gank fucking anywhere, and ward fucking anywhere when that turret's down.
Yep, that's correct. You can do anything on the map. You can do anything on the map when this turret's down. You can do anything here. You can go here, you can go here, you can go here, you can go here. You can go anywhere on the map when this turret is down. It is the most important turret in the game, bar none. You get to get vision, you get control of this, you get control of this area, and if the enemy mid laner chooses to play up when their turret's down, oh my god. The mid laner chooses to play up even when their turret's down over here. You know what the jungler and the mid laner get to do? Boom, boom. Where's he gonna run from here? To this turret? Hopefully you get the execute, buddy. It's the most important turret in the game. When you get this turret, it opens up the map completely to you, especially in solo queue, where people don't understand the importance of this turret. This is like the biggest thing that people don't understand. And so, I'm not saying try and keep this turret up with your life. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is understanding why we take this turret so quickly and what it can do for us. You get to do everything on this map when this turret's down. You can even it's like when this turret's down, you can randomly run from here to here, and just do whatever that lets you go to red buff, that lets you go to bot lane. And what happens here is you can even ward this area. That's a lot of vision. That's a lot of valuable information. If someone happens to wander by here, if you happen to see someone wander from here to here with a ward around here, you have a lot of information. This turret is very, very important. Another thing that I've been teaching a lot of mid laners lately is taking these camps. Junglers hate me for this. And I completely understand why. It's taking gold and experience for them. But how do we accrue natural advantages? By farming more. So if you Victor Laser the small raptors in the camp and just leave the big one for the Devour jungler, it doesn't hurt them that much. If you just start taking the camps in general, as a Smite mid laner, Devourer Kill was a great example of that. AP Smite Ezreal. Still a wonderful example of that. If you're ahead, you can get more ahead by just taking these camps. Even if you take 4 of these camps, it gives you a nice little small advantage that can go into wards or potions that can help you win your lane. Farming is very important. Farming jungle camps can help you out a lot as well. And I'm sorry, junglers, sometimes you need to take them. And the last thing I want to go over is, once again, roaming. You have the most opportunities to move around the map as your lane. So if you see opportunities to roam, and I will gladly teach the aspiring mid laners how to roam and how to accrue advantages through roaming. But you need to actively look at what's going on in the game to take advantage of roaming and be very aware of it. Alright, so, any questions about winning as mid? All right, moving on. Winning as support. Yeah, are you sure? Hey, you can smite the big. You can smite the big one for the buff if it's that important to you. Um. So so Eki, my point is to mid laners. If you feel you have the most carry potential, you want to take these camps. Screw the jungle that isn't doing anything but farming. If they don't have a camp to farm, they have to do something with their time, right? If they aren't doing anything with their time, they weren't worth anything anyway. All right, winning as support. Some claim this is impossible, especially bronzies. So we have like support, Yasuo. Anyways, some people claim this is impossible to carry as a support. Even more claim that the role is incredibly easy and you're just looking to be carried. Nope. Since season 2, since season 3, you are no longer a ward bot. You are the second most important champion on your team for the first 5 minutes. What do you mean I can't carry support with Annie and Morgan all the time? With metas and this guy. I'm gonna get to how you can carry the game as a support. So, plenty of ways to do it. As I said, you're the second most important champion on your team for the first 5 minutes. Who's the most important champion on your team for the first 5 minutes? The jungler. So, what you want to do as a support is you wanna make the first pick Vayne cry under the turret by like just destroying them in like a level 2 trade. Getting level 2 first and trying to shove out the wave and like denying them farm is a very effective way. You guys can't hear me? All right.
You kind of like cut out for a good 15 seconds.
Okay, well that's strange. Anyways, let's go back. So, you are the second most important champion on your team for the first 5 minutes. Who's the most important? The jungler.
Jungler.
Yeah, there you go. How would you make yourself known as a support? Well, the best way of doing it is winning your lane. Making the first pick Vayne cry under the turret and just like destroying them over and over and over again. Caitlyn Janna is a great example of how to destroy a first pick Vayne. Sona with her poke, Thresh with his hooks, Braum with his Q. Making the enemy laners regret even stepping out from the turret because they're because you demand so much pressure is really good, and that means they're going to be spam pinging for the jungler to show up. This is really good. This means that your jungler has the freedom to make the decision that he decisions that he needs to make. Now, I'm not saying die to the enemy jungler over and over and over again, because that's just going to encourage him to come back and make it even incentivize killing you even more, because it's just so easy. What you need to do is ward up, make sure that the enemy jungler can't actually kill you, then play up, and then bait him into coming into the lane over and over again. This is a skill that a lot of supports don't possess in most divisions, where they're just going to continuously die to the jungler, even though they know exactly where he was. You need to be aware of where the jungler is and see how you can manipulate him into coming into your lane, because if he's focusing your lane and you're still doing well in your lane because you have 2 people to work with, and suddenly the rest of the map opens up for your jungler, and you're able, and you might be able to do even more. The biggest thing though is making sure your carry can farm. I know there are situations where where your carry is complete and total garbage, but you need to make sure they can at least do something relevant. I know it sucks, but you need to make sure they can at least farm. If they can't CS, that's just a completely different story in itself, in which case you can go hog wild on the farm and just be like, yeah, you aren't doing anything, I really don't care about you anymore. Obviously, don't say that because then you get banned and then you lose rank rewards and blah 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 blah. But sometimes you do need to just take all the farm from your carry when they aren't farming at all. But for the most part, we're talking like 90% of the time, you want to make sure your AD carry can farm and they feel safe enough to farm. And if not, you probably did something wrong as a support. Obviously, the biggest goal is to kill them. Kill the enemy laner, kill the jungler, kill the support, kill the mid laner. All completely possible as a support. Roaming, ganking, understanding your power, how powerful you are. Blitzcrank roams, thresh roams, all excellent. So killing them is very important. And the biggest one, the second biggest one, is vision control and objective control. I highlighted it earlier. If you see the jungler on top side, ganking top here, as a support, you might want to go run into the you might want to go you might want to go run to the enemy jungle, and if you can afford to, and get wards here and here. That way. Oh, sorry. Chose the wrong one. But anyways, my point is, if the jungler's over here, you get to see him. The jungler's over here, you get to see him. Basically, getting vision in opportune moments is one of the best ways to carry the game. I swear it is completely possible to carry as support, and if anyone has any questions about it, please speak up now. Alright, moving on. Winning as marksman. I think carrying as marksman in solo queue is one of the most daunting tasks anyone can choose to take up. From a solo queue perspective, I understand why people want to play marksman. It's a high. You have a high mechanical skill and decision making. You have. All right. So. A lot of decision making, a lot of mechanical play. Hyper carries are very popular. Vayne's been being picked all the time nowadays. So that's why people like to play marksman. However, it's very difficult to carry as it because you are a very squishy champion. You only build damage unless you have to rush. Something like Banshee does because the enemy mid laner is so fed as a third, and that's still a third item. So you rely a lot on your team, pretty much, and you need to play as safely as possible. And you want to be able to farm. You want to be able to siege safely. You're the main source of damage for taking down turrets. So even like not contributing to a team fight, but and you're able to win it. You being alive versus you being dead is a stark contrast. It's why your flash is so valuable. It's why you're the person to take heal. It's why you're buying Quicksilver Sash to get rid of the CC. Because if you're alive after a team fight, you're probably able to get a turret off of it as long as you're like relatively strong. So I can't reiterate enough that playing safe is what you want to do. You want to be reactive. You want to outplay your opponents, and sometimes you're going to be incredibly fed, and you're going to be able to just 1v5 the enemy team because you're so strong. Well, most of the time you need to work with your team to achieve victory because you need tanks to peel for you and supports to peel for you as well. So, any questions about playing marksman? I don't have any marksman mains in here, I believe. I believe all of you are support, top, mid, jungle, and... Oh, okay, I've seen you play nothing but Twisted Fate. So, yeah, converting is fair to say. Alright.
Was this yours?
Alright, guys. Final thoughts.
Oh boy.
Winning is hard. Winning is very difficult. Winning is a foreign concept to a lot of players because they after first blood they just want to give up and move on to the next game. I'm one of those players. you want to think about how to win about every 10 seconds. Okay, let's make it every 30 seconds. Then you just get distracted by everything. You want to think about what your short-term win condition is and what your long-term win condition is about every 30 seconds. Don't be mad when you're losing. That's the biggest thing. You probably screwed up. Look to see how you can fix how you screwed up. Is it possible? No. Okay, that's okay. Maybe I can carry this game if I don't play as well. If I don't play so terribly now. Sometimes you just need to look to be carried. Or sometimes you might be given that golden opportunity to come back after screwing up your lane or screwing up a gank or something. You need to look for these opportunities once you screw up. It's not the end of the world when you screw up once. What is the end of the world is when you screw up 7 times in a row because you tilted. Another thing is, your team is going to do things that you don't agree with. Your team is going to make bad decisions. You aren't them. You can't make a decision for them. It's why it's a 5v5 game. It's why solo queue exists. You can't be mad about other people's decisions impacting your game. You need to look to see how you can impact the game after they make a bad decision. How can I fix what they did? Is it possible for me to do something in this situation? I'm not saying just go like balls deep into a fight after someone dies, because that's not going to do you any good. Like running into a 5 teammates once someone gets caught usually isn't going to work out unless you're incredibly fed. Sometimes you just want to play back. And I'm still guilty of this too. I'm still guilty of going into a fight once I know someone's caught. It happens to everyone. You need to learn to control that impulse if you want to climb. There are going to be games where you just lose because people are bad. That's just life. No, I'm kidding. That's just life punishing you. No, there are just going to be games where you just lose because of bad people being mad, but you can't be discouraged by them. You can't win every game. You can't win a majority of your games. You can win like a slight majority of your games. Like having a 55% win rate is like excellent at the end of the day. Like you aren't challenger and you're still working towards it. You can't be mad that you like lose every game. And promo syndrome. Oh my god, promo syndrome. Let's talk about promo syndrome for like half a second here, because I know a lot of you have it. Or a lot of you get angry about winning and losing promos. Promos don't matter. Promos don't matter. If you lose your promos, that's just Riot being like, haha, you can't have this. And you can be like, screw you, Riot. I deserve this. My MMR is high enough, and if I keep trying, I'm going to get there. No. So don't get mad when you lose promos. They don't matter at the end of the day. It's still rating that's going to get you to where you want to be. Like, they don't, like, being mad about going O2 is like, it's like, would you be mad about going O2 if you were trying to climb? No, it happens. It happens, right? You can't always win. So why are you being mad about, like, losing promos? Losing promos. It's the same thing as losing two climb games. It's like, honestly, I wish they would remove it, because it gives off really bad mentalities. And my absolute least favorite thing is when we're down like 0-17 in the game, and the 20 surrender comes out, and 2 people surrender because, yeah, sorry, my duo is in promos. Kawhi, you know the answer to what I'm going to say to duoing with friends who may not be the best players. That is your choice. That is your choice. I'm not going to tell you no, but, well, I mean, if you're looking to improve and get better, you can't waste your time with people that are going to bog you down, right? That's not fair to you. You're not being fair to yourself. You're only holding yourself back. And if you want to succeed, sometimes you're just gonna have to say no. Alright, guys. Any questions about the lesson overall? I wish I had gone over more. Alas, I need to... I need to cut down these lessons. Otherwise, you guys will be overloaded with information and not pick up anything. Any questions at all, guys?
Nope, everything's all good here.
How do I beat Irelia in a 1v1 as Twisted Fate? Well...
Cry.
You can red card the backline twice at level 1, shove her in, harass her with Q till she gets to about a quarter because she doesn't have enough sustain yet. At that point, you spam ping your jungler to tower dive, or you threaten AFK if they don't come and tower dive the Irelia. The jungler dies, but you get double buffs, and then you just harass her with red buff for the entire game. That's how you win.
I like it.
There's also you can That's pretty much the only way I can see you actually winning that matchup if she's not completely terrible. Just getting a red buff from your own jungler after he tower dives because you demanded it, otherwise you would AFK, and then snowball the lane off that. And then obviously go gank other lanes when she's trying to farm back up. And don't go back to that lane when she has like Sheen, because she'll still blow you up once you blow your pick card. I'm pretty sure.
Honestly, it was a game I should have dodged, but it was like 4 in the morning, and I just was not thinking.
I have those games all the time. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. I demoted today.
Yeah, me too, actually.
Alright. If a solo lane is heading farm, but not a winning lane, do you gank that lane or help other lanes? Depends on the situation. If they just hit a power spike, you probably want to gank that lane. That's a big thing about it. That probably you wouldn't see in any other situation. If they just hit a power spike, you might want to gank that lane. Level power spike, item power spike, look for those. Advantages, even small ones, if you can push them even and stretch them out to where the enemy laner is just like, oh, well, they have this advantage now, I can't do anything about it. It's like what you want to do as a jungler. So it really depends on the situation, but look. The big thing here is look for item and level power spikes. Alright, guys. I don't want to hold you anymore because the lesson is over. So if you have any questions, feel free to talk to me in Skype. I'm going to check out Twitch chat for now if you guys have any questions. And so, let's see. Alright, guys. Hey, alright.
Hey, the viewer list looks like mine.
Yeah, right? Whatever. I don't really care. Alright, guys.
Hey.
Yep.
There's a 24-hour stream event for charity coming up in like 2 months.
I should do that, huh? Alright.
Yeah. It's called Extra Life. It's on Reddit.
Yeah, okay, I saw